Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we're talking about something a bit more serious, an event in the history of the United States that affects us all greatly today. I was born into this changed world 2 years after this event, and this event was, of course, the attack on the Twin Towers and the Pentagon on September 11th, 2001. This event changed more than just security, and all I've ever known is the United States falling, and I wanted to learn more about the world before this tragic event. I found that this tragedy made our country improve in many ways, but there are also negative effects, of course, to go along with these. Today, I want to talk about both the good and the bad of the repercussions following this great tragedy. The initial shock from this event was almost unheard of and unseen before. The only other really event that I can compare it to is the bombing on Pearl Harbor. The country almost completely shut down following this, and it almost reminds me of how we are here today. And I know I've seen a lot of people comparing some of the death toll numbers just because the coronavirus solely in New York has passed the death toll from the 9/11 attacks. And so we have seen a similar kind of shutdown in the country due to this pandemic that we did after 9/11. And so up on the screen right now, I should have some headlines from the following week just to show how much of an impact it made, and it made every top news line, and it was spread across the country as fast as possible. So seeing these headlines kind of shows just what an incredible impact it had on the country immediately. And here now I have a clip from a news broadcast just a short week after the attacks.
This is News Channel 4's continuing coverage. We shall overcome.
President Bush signs the law tonight authorizing the use of force to root out Osama bin Laden and the terror networks threatening world peace.
An ordinary grocery store frozen by an extraordinary event. New video from the buildings near Ground Zero. Disturbing evidence of the economic impact. Good evening. Another economic jolt to the nation as the city faces a crucial decision.
1 week after that terrible Tuesday disaster, officials will soon have to decide whether continued rescue efforts are futile. Search teams have redoubled their efforts to find the black boxes, the cockpit voice and flight data recorders of the planes that hit the Twin Towers. The sudden slump in air travel will reportedly force Boeing to lay off more than 30,000 workers. A federal grand jury in White Plains is hearing evidence. And President Bush praises positive statements from Yasser Arafat, who said he is enforcing a Middle East ceasefire. Our team coverage begins with John Noel near Ground Zero. John?
Chuck, there are rescue workers back there tonight digging with their bare hands until their fingers bleed, refusing to give up on the search for survivors, even though it is 7 days since terrorists attacked and leveled the World Trade Center.
In this video, they point out some of the biggest struggles occurring in the week after the 9/11 attacks. One of the most important struggles to be noted is the economy. Just like today, the economy had crashed because the country had shut down, either to grieve and to pay respects to those lost in the attacks. On top of it mentioning 31,000 Boeing layoffs, which is a major company in the United States. So it greatly impacted how the country would function from that point on. And they try and show that there's still hope. And one thing that came out of this was the country uniting together and being supportive. And this is one of those examples. Well, it may be hard to see. This event, while terrible and thousands of lives lost is awful, did force the country to improve in many ways. To start, security measures and places of public transport, especially airports, were increased greatly. Like full body scans, bag scans weren't always fully applied before, and now it's a norm that I've always known. And that was one of the bigger things that I was wondering about, is because there was so many norms that have been changed, and to me, all I've ever known is the current system we have in place now. And seeing this made us make our security better to try and prevent from other attacks, and made us a stronger country throughout all, because we kind of came together through this one thing. And so I think it's important to kind of see what we gained as a country from terrible events like this. While it's important to look at the good, we can't look at the good without recognizing the bad too. The few thousand dead from the initial day, along with all their families who are hurt from this. Many of these long-lasting effects are still greatly in effect today, including the soon after rising tensions between us and Afghanistan leading into war. This war alone has left nearly 1 million veterans with PTSD as of 2016. And these attacks made many people discriminate against Middle Eastern people in the country. They were not trusted and some were feared, even if they were completely innocent. There are many attacks on innocent Muslim women and children following this day. Right here, I have a chart from the FBI showing the spike just following 2001, and while it does go back down, it constantly stays above what it used to be for the following years. And this is one of the worst effects that it has had and that I've seen in my life from the 9/11 attacks. I believe that this source is trustworthy because it is coming straight from the FBI and shows direct numbers that I believe we can trust because of the source that it's coming from. After researching this topic, I believe that 9/11 should be looked at as a day of memory and condolences. But I think we should also be able to recognize how much it changed our country for both good things and bad things, and take all those in memory on the day. Thank you for listening in to this episode.